Welcome to the SBA podcast, the official podcast of the School of Business Administration at Andrews University. Here, we dive deep into the conversations with our esteemed faculty, successful alumni, and ambitious students about their internship experiences.
Hey guys, so back with the SBA podcast. Today we're doing another internship interview. Today I'm here with
Johnathon Luderot.
All right, nice to meet you, Jonathan. Tell everybody that's listening about yourself. You know, what class are you in, how old you are, what you're studying.
Yeah, so I'm a junior here at Andrews University. I study finance, and I'm 21 years old.
All right, so this is an internship interview. So, where did you intern at?
So last summer, I did my first internship at Kettering Health. I was going out of my sophomore year, started that internship there, and currently right now I'm doing an internship with PwC.
Okay. So your internship at Kettering Health, you're originally from Ohio.
Yep.
So how did that feel about, being able to intern basically in your home state? How did you feel about that one?
Yeah, it felt good to be home. It's kind of crazy because I know a lot of the executives, just like seeing them at church or like seeing them pick up their kids from school, because a lot of their kids go to Spring Valley. That's where I went to high school. I didn't know them too well because I live in Cincinnati, which is an hour away from Kettering. But it felt good to be home. Like on the weekends, I could go back to Cincinnati, see my family. Yeah, it felt right at home being at Kettering.
That's good. That's good. So the time at Kettering, what was your position? What was the title that you had?
Yeah, so I was a business development intern, and so I did a bunch of work with business development, a little bit of finance, and I was working under the preceptor Joshua Michalski, who is the director of operations and strategy, and my executive sponsor was Erica Snyder, and she was COO of Main Campus Systems and then the president of Miamisburg Hospital. So I just did a lot of business development work, a lot of financial analysis. Yeah, but my title was general intern for business development.
Okay. So your day to day, what did that look like? Were you waking up early? Did you have like a chill type of schedule? What was your schedule like? How did you do that?
So here's the thing, because I talked to a lot of the other interns, and my experience was a lot different from theirs. They had more of like a strict, like I do this from this time, this to this time. But my experience was a lot different just because all the other interns were working with managers and like head of their departments as their preceptors. But my preceptor was like an executive. He was the director of operations and strategy over main campus. And so, coming into the internship, I would follow a lot of his leads. Like my days looked like I shared a calendar with him. And so I would go to all of his meetings, executive councils, his touch points, his real estate meetings. A lot of my first couple of weeks was just immersing in what healthcare is and getting over that learning curve. And also spending time outside of my internship, just learning more about health policy, the jargon. There's so much terms that you just don't even know, and they use a lot of acronyms.
No, yeah. Yeah.
You just gotta get the hang of everything. But once those couple of weeks were over, Joshua, he went out on a limb and he gave me a lot of responsibility. And so a lot of my time was here and there going into meetings with him, but he gave me a lot of autonomy. So I would be working on projects okay, so here's the thing. So Joshua, he because he has so much on his plate as director of operations strategy, he would entrust me with a lot of work. He knew I was really good at Excel. He knew I knew some SQL knowledge, some data analysis knowledge. And so he would give me a project and not give me a deadline. And he would just say, I'm going to need this when I need it. And that would stress me out a lot.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. It actually pushed me to get work done at a really good level and at a timely manner. And I remember one weekend he gave me something on Friday, and I spent that whole weekend getting it to him by Monday. And little did I know, the regional president's asking him for this stuff Monday afternoon, and luckily I had it done.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me a lot of autonomy to just do projects that he needed done in his role. And obviously he was there to guide me and help me. And he gave me a lot of contacts throughout the network, like decision support, financial analysts that could help me with stuff. So my day-to-day work was, you know, I was in main campus, so I would be going around talking to different physicians, talking to different directors, working on projects, digging through data. I would spend a lot of time in Excel and pivot tables, just putting together
That's a good stuff
data
right
now.
there.
Yeah. So that was what my day-to-day looked like. It was different every single day, every single week, but
You got to really see, I mean, you sort of had shadowing.
yeah.
You got a really good like shadow opportunity because you have to see really how he moves, and that's sort of the work you want to do in future as well. And so like, um, what's also interesting about that too is you basically, as an intern, you also were working sort of with full-time employee autonomy. So how did that, when you came back to school now, did that experience give you, say, a certain level of confidence now to like work when it came to like work or enact this or any of those sorts of things? Do you think the internship was like, okay, like I mean, I got autonomy at a, large hospital. Like now I feel like I actually be able to do this at a certain level, to a certain degree when I'm in school. How did that, translate over when you came back?
Yeah. So here's the thing is when I before I even started because that was my first internship,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was gonna look like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of that autonomy that I was given, I didn't know that was the responsibility I was gonna do. And so it was a lot of tackling stuff that was an area of unknown. It was just getting immersed in that. And so over the 10 weeks, that became my normal. Like work, I didn't really understand that would be like an intern is basically a full-time job. It's just like your title is an intern, but they give
Yeah,
you the
yeah.
responsibility of a full-time job. And so coming back to Andrews, it was a shift in my mindset of how I do things, how I lead, like you said with Enactus, giving my members this expectation of I've been in I mean, I haven't been in, but I've experienced the corporate world for a little bit, and I know their expectations, and I want to prepare you guys for that stuff as a project lead. And so even just before Kettering, I never used a calendar. I was not the type of guy to just write stuff down or just take mental notes, but I never used a calendar. I'm gonna show you. This is how my calendars look. So I definitely adopted that mindset of, having a calendar, being more strict with my time, taking even my workflow with schoolwork more seriously, and all that stuff prepared me to the real world as well.
No, yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, even when I was in school, I was never I'm still hardly a calendar person just off of my personality. I always know, oh, this time, that time, this time. Um, but the real world, in the corporate world, how things move, you need that because you have to make sure that when you're eating, you're not working, or when you're supposed to be somewhere, you're not somewhere else. And that's a good practice to take now so that when you get out there for real, um, you're able to really manage all the different P's and Q's that are happening. And so you said, he knew you were good at Excel. I knew you were good at all those other types of things. Um, my other question is essentially like, what was a class that you took, um, that you feel as if in your internship you were like, oh, I learned this in school. Like which class would you say that, in the School of Business or in general?
Yeah. So here's the thing, because at first he didn't know I was good at that stuff. I kind of had to prove it to him that I was good at that stuff. And honestly, I blew a lot of his expectations because I was just a sophomore. But School of Business definitely prepared me a lot for that. I'd say the the key classes that definitely prepared me, just even Principles of Accounting,
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2. you're spending a lot of time in Excel, and you understand how Excel works. Even if you're not like doing a lot of data digging, you just understand how Excel works because you're using it so much. You know, the more time you're in something, the more comfortable you're with it. And then I think, okay, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's like information systems
Yeah.
or
Information Systems 1. On an FS.
it's from Dixon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Her class, is it called information systems?
that's the second one. You're talking about her second one that's in the lab?
Yeah, in the computer lab.
Yeah, that one is, I don't know. I don't know if it's
I forget the name.
informatics or something.
I'll get it to you and then you can pop it up on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that class definitely prepared me. She goes the ins and out. Also, like I knew a little bit of SQL language going into the internship, and I told him that. He was like, "Really?" So he put me through a week and a half, very extensive program like course where huh?
Like a certification type of course? Or?
Yeah, but it was in house. Like it was through Kettering.
Okay.
It was a full course. Like I spent hours a day, um, enhancing my SQL knowledge. And I already knew if I didn't know anything, that class would have been so so hard for me. But because I knew at least some basic SQL knowledge that it can prepare me for, I was able to get through that. When I was a lot of my job was digging through data. I was able to do that efficiently, and if there wasn't data for it, I was able to create a data cube for it because I have SQL knowledge. And she also teaches you how to work with pivot tables, how to present information once you've got the data.
Because nobody wants to just see spreadsheets. They want to actually see the charts and how to actually build something, and then you have multiple sheets of just, oh,
Yeah.
here's this information in a very presentable way. And that's important in definitely the corporate world because people don't have time to just scroll through your spreadsheet. They want to see the results and want to see the reports. So that's big. I mean, I'm sure she'd be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, she teaches you the ins and outs of Excel. And like for one, so one of my projects was I created a market share profile for one of the presidents. After a meeting that I sat in with like a few of the presidents, she wanted to know like her realistic market share of compared to her competitors within her area, based off of the top service lines at their hospital, and then also comparing it to the top service lines of the network. And so she asked me if I could do it, not even believing if I could fully do it. And I sat that full day grinding. And the way I presented it, like she didn't expect me to present. She just expected an Excel sheet. And I gave her like really aesthetically pleasing charts with all of the information below, all of the notes that she would need. And she was like, wow, this is like exactly what I need. I can take this to my next meeting. I don't have to dig through your stuff. I can just look at it. I can present it to them. And it was all from Gibson's class for sure.
That's good stuff, bro. Yeah, that's really good stuff. I mean, that's something, I mean, that's what you want. Like when you go to school, like the whole point of it is you learn, one, to be a better professional. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned in school, how to be a better professional, but also just like these tools, these like skills that they just make life a little easier for sure. Like they just make working just a lot easier. And there's certain processes that you need to learn, and you sometimes you can't learn them outside. And so that's really great because then you're able to then be proud of it. You're like, yeah, I spent some time on that, and yeah, you don't have to edit it, and that's something your work is now being presented in a in a meeting with executives and presidents. So that's really big. So let's like shift a little more not towards your day to day, but more so to like relationships and Kettering. So like for interns, what was that like? What was your were you guys just hang out? Was there a thing where the Kettering make it a thing where you guys would do things together? I know some companies they have like intern hangouts at the end of the week, or sometimes I know like they'll have all the interns in the company come to like an event, or they might have interns live together. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so with interacting with interns, it was a bit different for me because I was the only one at main campus, and a majority of the interns were at the network building, so they all worked together, just maybe on different floors. But throughout the week, Kettering offers so much opportunities for us to just get together, build friendships with each other. Every single Friday we have a Vespers, and the way they do it at Kettering is pretty. I don't know if other Adventist health systems do this, but I know they have an executive host each one of those Vespers. So one week it'll be at the president of Miamisburg's house, or the next week it'll be at the CFO's house, or the next week executive director, blah blah blah. So each week is at someone's house who's a higher up executive.
Yeah. So you get to know people.
Right.
So like, you might not have the opportunity of actually getting to meet them in the workspace, but you at least now it's like, oh, I got to meet this person. And how many of you guys were there as interns?
Business interns, there were 12 of us.
12. So it's still it's a small enough group that essentially.
But the group was a little bigger because we had nurses come as
Oh,
well.
so you had the nursing interns also.
So every Vespers it was probably like 30, 40 people.
That's pretty good.
And then they had like two different Vespers simultaneously.
Pretty
But
good.
other than that, we had, Dayton Dragon games, Kings Island. Every week they had something that we could do, and of course they pay for it. We just had to show up.
Yeah.
They had food for us. So there was a lot of social events that we could connect with other interns.
That's key. I think that's really key because essentially they're essentially making, these are possibly the people who'll be working there in the next couple of years.
Right.
And so your colleagues, but you're also friends to a certain degree. And you have this network that you build. And so by the time that you guys get out of college, it's like, and if you guys do go back to Kettering to work, if Kettering hires, then it might be safe out of the 12, probably 6. That's still 6 people who are able to understand the process of intern to executive to C-suite. It's just that's a really good network to have, people that understand also the journey that you went through.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of the interns I still talk to today. And I know another one of the interns, me and Kelsey, we're coming back into this next cohort this next summer because I'm going back to Kettering.
Yeah.
So I mean, I created a good relationship with her last summer, and we're going to be working together again. We could potentially be working as full-time workers together. So these relationships that you build during your internship could go all the way down to your career path. And I could even see, even though some of them might not be coming back to Kettering, we could be working together 10, 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
These are relationships that I built now.
Yeah. And that's key. And they make sure that they create a space for that to even be possible. And definitely, tip my hat off to that for sure. You also had another internship.
Yeah.
Are you able to speak about it?
Yeah, so I'm doing it right now. I'm a few weeks in. It's a 8 to 10 week internship with PwC. And so we're doing consulting for nonprofits. And so PwC partners with a bunch of nonprofits across the country. And my nonprofit that I'm partnered with is called the Dara Ashley Foundation. And so they do fundraising for lower income minority students who want to pursue higher education but can't necessarily afford it. And so they do a lot of fundraising for that. And partnered with PwC and Dara Ashley Foundation, I'm basically taking a consulting role. And so doing a lot of research for them, building out donor profiles, figuring out donor leads, donor personas. And I'm at the end of the internship, I should have 5 donor profiles. I've completed 2 so far. Just researching a lot and figuring out who would be a good fit that aligns with the Dara Ashley Foundation, and coming out with a full profile that I can pitch toward to the Dara Ashley Foundation. So at the end of our internship, they'll pick a few top interns to present to the Dara Ashley Foundation. Yeah. Their donor leads, whether it's individual, corporate, foundations, we would pitch those, and then they would take our recommendations. And this could be,
when it comes to that, when it comes to that type of stuff, so you're talking about more on the fundraising side of things, right? So for when you're building a donor persona, do you feel like you're doing a lot of stuff similar to what you did at Kettering?
No, I mean they're completely different.
Completely different, right?
Yeah, so the thing, because this is more consulting. So the thing is, PwC fully prepares you on how to handle consulting, and everybody's cohort is a bit different. I'm doing fundraising, but they'll teach you how to create donor profiles,
Okay.
how to do the research, and then they leave it up to you to actually do that research. And I think the only thing that's kind of similar is just, pitching and being able to create a full profile that has all the research, um, how it aligns with these two different things. I mean, at Kettering, I did something like that when I created a business plan for molecular imaging, but other than that, they're completely separate
Yeah.
thing.
I understand the complete. That's what I wanted to see, like, for you, because you're doing things that are. Do you feel like, because you're doing two different things, right? And so, do you feel like this one now you're able to apply certain aspects of yourself from when you're doing catering to this? Like, have you been able to find that what's that called? Transferable, those transferable qualities.
I don't see it as me taking stuff from Kettering and bringing it to here, but what I do see is because my passion lies in healthcare, there's a lot of stuff that I can take from this internship into my future career at Kettering, because I know with consulting, you just learn a lot of communication skill.
Yeah.
I put together a lot of streams of information to something concise that you're able to consult to people who need your information.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely going to help me in the long term as I plan to become a director, an executive, or even pitching to those executives and directors, having concise information that makes sense and communication skills. And so I'm definitely going to take this stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you've been enjoying your time at PwC. So
It's nice because it's remote. So
yeah. How is that? So for you so I was gonna ask that about, we were talking about relationships with interns, things like that. Do you get to really meet any interns in your remote situation?
So I'm actually okay. So my cohort, there's like 20 of us, 25 of us. But there's multiple cohorts. Like Kato's also doing PwC. He's in a completely different cohort than I am. And there's about 20 to 25 in that as well.
Wow.
But I'm connected with all of my interns in my fundraising consulting cohort. And so every week we have a weekly meeting with our externs and our project leads. And then every other week we have a company meeting with PwC executives, PwC consultants, and then also Dar Ashley herself.
Okay.
She comes through to those meetings every other week. So we get to connect for about 1 to 2 hours every week. And then we're also in a group chat. If anybody needs help or if anybody needs to say what's on their mind, we also connect through that way as well.
That's big. That's big. I mean, that's really big because I think, the world it already is remote. And that's sort of where things are going to some degree. And so I was wondering about, I know a lot of people are talking about connectivity in the workplace, how they feel like they don't really have it as much, but it seems like they're doing really well at PwC with you guys when it comes to that connectivity, and that you guys also are taking that initiative to also, hey, like, if you want to talk about this, want to talk about that, just hit up the group chat.
Right.
Yeah. That's really big. That's really big. I guess back to just in general, what is one of the things that you feel like you struggled with when you were doing any internship, in these last two? What's like a thing that you feel like that was a struggle for you that you overcame?
Well, I think anybody who's done an internship will say the same thing. It's just getting over that learning curve. But the good thing is everybody will get over it if you're dedicated and if you're hardworking, if you're willing to. But when you come in for a first internship, you don't know anything. Like, of course, you learn stuff from school, but there's a lot you don't know because you aren't in this space, you aren't in this world, right? And so you come in and there's so much that they're throwing in your face that you're just like, you don't understand. And you have to be willing to put in the work to get over that learning curve, right? And so I think that was the hardest thing that I struggled with, was like that first week and a half of just hearing all this stuff that I didn't understand and pushing myself, working outside of work to get over that learning curve, and fully adopt myself into that world.
And that's big. It's a good thing that you have that because a lot of people they experience that in their first day of work, like the first months of work. And I can say even for myself, there are times when like when I first started working in the real world, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, or like certain expectations, or just certain things that everybody does at the company that you just don't know yet. And you're like, oh, but then as time goes on, you're like, oh, okay, this is normal. Like, you also don't feel weird, going through. So that's a good thing that you overcame that. Which I would say, to some degree, it could be a little. I think a lot of people have it, a little bit of imposter syndrome when you first start. It's just normal, it's normal stuff. But getting over it and actually feeling you're a part of something is really big. So I'm glad that you're able to get over that. My last question is going to be, so like when you think of internship, what would you say is the number one lesson that you learned that you would say makes internships worth it? So this is like, say you're talking to a high schooler, someone is coming into college or a freshman, what makes an internship worth it?
Yeah, so I want to answer this in two parts.
Yeah, you can.
One is why it's worth it, and then two, I want to give a piece of advice if they do get into an internship. So why is it worth it is because you gain confidence that you're able to do this stuff when you graduate. So, I mean, I've only done one internship with Kettering Health. Luckily, I did it my sophomore year, so I'm able to do another one. But the amount that I've learned just through that one internship, I'm so much more confident, especially coming back with them, that when I go into the workforce, I'm able to work for them. And I made these connections already. I know what their expectations are, because a lot of the things you can learn a lot through books, but the most you can learn is through experience. And if you've experienced that before, you're much more confident. And so that's why I say internships are valuable, because you gain experience, you gain connections, all of that stuff. And then a piece of advice, like if I was talking to a high schooler student, of if you actually do take my advice of why it's worth it, and you do go out and get an internship, one piece of advice I give them is never limit your nose. And I say that because if there's any opportunity, jump on it. Don't waste your nose. I honestly would say you say yes to everything, because honestly, use it as a learning experience. You're not a full-time worker, even though you're treated like one. But if you mess up, they know you're an intern, right? And so you can use every single experience as a learning experience. And so even if you're like, should I say yes to this because I don't even know if I could do that, or I don't know if I can handle it, say yes, jump in and learn.
Yep.
And that's definitely my piece of advice.
That's really good advice. I'm not gonna lie, because that's a big thing. You, as you said, you're an intern. You're not a full-time worker. Truthfully, they're not gonna fire you because you make a mistake.
Right.
You're sort of supposed to make mistakes as an intern. You're allowed to. And it's also good to have a learning mindset. Because if you go in there thinking you know everything, you're not gonna last long, and nobody's gonna really want to work with you once you get to the ability to probably working there. But having that learning mindset gives you that growth mindset to just be like, okay, I'm gonna say yes to this. If I do it wrong, I do it wrong. They might tell me how I did it wrong, and then now I know how to do it. At least I now know how to do it, compared to just existing and not knowing how to do something because you're too afraid to say yes to something. So that is big. That is big.
Can I add one more thing? Yeah. I just thought of another one. Why it's valuable is because if you've worked with them before and you do great work, they know who you are. And so if you're looking for a job when you graduate and you haven't done any internship experience, or you really want to get a job at Advent Health or anywhere, but they don't know who you are, they're most likely going to pick someone else unless like you have amazing grades or amazing other experiences other than internships. But because they know who you are, because they know you've worked with them before, they know how you are. I like to say, like, they use your internship is a 10-week interview. Like they're watching how you work, they're watching your workflow, like your efforts. And so if they've seen you before, you're most likely gonna get a job when you graduate. You don't have to worry about that.
Your movement is important. How you move is very important. So, yeah. Thanks, guys, again for listening to the SBA podcast. This is another internship interview with
Jonathan.
And see you guys another time. Peace out.
If you found this episode helpful, share with your friends and colleagues. Our podcast streams on all platforms that carry a podcast. Follow us on social media, stay up to date on our new projects. Your engagement and support make a significant impact. Until next time, keep exploring, stay inspired, and remember together, we can shape the future of business.